Well, our first afternoon edition of Ship Chasing. Here we go. I'm Pete Overzet. We got Ben Gretsch, hopefully Pat Carrain rolling by here. We're going to talk about some stuff all of us have been working on. Gretsch has been deep in the lab on the rookie running backs. Pat is writing about Central American trees. And I've been making videos about how to reverse engineer your draft and digging into the week 16 versus 17 debates that are bubbling up in our best ball corner of the woods. This is Ship Chasing, and naturally, we will do a draft today. Let's get to it.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your sight.
Jamar Alpha Play Chase.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
Pete, it looks like we're finally piss boys. You're right.
All right.
He made it.
He made it. I mean,
professional. I know there's a cold open. It buys me another 30 seconds. I can stream with John, talk about his poker days.
Man, I shouldn't have revealed that you weren't here yet, because then it would have been a magic trick. You would have just showed up and people would have thought you've been hanging out for 30 minutes before the show.
No, I was literally streaming with John on Badge Bros, so
yeah,
they would have known exactly where I was. But
this is how John gets me back, because I do often on the clock with them on Wednesdays after Swolecast, and sometimes we'll run long there because Kitchen doesn't know how to land the plane, and so I push often on the clock back. So this is how John finally got me back
nice.
For not starting right on time. So Gretsch is fresh off of playing some golf. Pat has been podcasting. I've been podcasting. But yeah, we've all been working on various pieces of fantasy research. Gretsch, you had a big post on stealing signals. Was that yesterday about all of the rookie running backs?
Yep. Yeah, I finally sent that out yesterday. Yeah, wrote about that. Wrote about the Michael Penix contract, which I sent a big tweet about as well. Some other just kind of assorted thoughts. But yeah, the rookie running backs are fun. I think it's sort of crystallized for me that they're going to be a group to really hammer. I've talked a little bit on the show about not really trusting the rookie wide receivers that have really gotten steamed up into the middle rounds. I mean, some of the guys like A.D. Mitchell, we all really agree on, but I'm even like not as high as the market will be on like the Brian Thomases and some of those guys that are the non-uber elite of this class. I think that group is really getting pushed up. But I think what's happened, there's reasons obviously to be on rookies. We all like to be on rookies. But this is a running back class that people aren't super excited about. There was no elite talents. Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson are fine, but they're solid, and that's about it. And I think it kind of got a little bit overlooked that it's deep. There's some really interesting landing spots from the draft. Rounds 4 to 6 were really running back heavy, we know that a lot of teams wait until day 3 to hit running backs, but it was like a lot of running backs went off the board. And a lot of times these guys land in spots where like Abanikanda last year, we loved him, lands behind Breece Hall, and you're like, this sucks. And then later in the summer, they signed Dalvin Cook, and by August, you're like, you can't even draft Abanikanda. Like as a day 3 guy, it sucks. This year, the other thing I don't think really got emphasized enough is there weren't a lot of those. I mean, you have Braylon Allen landing in the same spot with the Jets. That's a little bit annoying. And then they took Isaiah Davis behind that. So Jets is a good example of one that's not perfect. I didn't like the Will Shipley landing spot with the Eagles because he's a great pass catcher. They probably aren't going to throw to him a lot. You get those in every class, but there's only a couple this year. There's like a dozen that you're like, yeah, he's the clear number 2. He's got a pretty interesting profile. Like, I mean, there's a lot of guys that we should be in on, and it just seems like in all formats. And the draft capital is not there. In the rookie drafts, it's great to get them in the 3rd round and beyond. In best ball, it's great to take the stabs in the double-digit rounds. It fits with the ways that we've been wanting to build. I mean, it's a low-cost way to get rookie upside. And I mean, you look at the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot of day 3 backs that have gotten a lot of work in their first season. I mean, it's actually happened more than we probably give it credit for. If you go dig back through Isaiah Pacheco, Tyler Algier, Roshan Johnson last year played. We thought he would after landing there. There's a number more, but I think it's a key this year. It's a big thing to hammer.
Yeah, and Pat, I'm curious your thoughts, because you've been way more in the weeds, obviously, kind of with these prospect profiles, and I know that greatly informs kind of how you think about their chances to be fantasy superstars. But from just like a macro trend, I do think there's this element of this is a bad class, and I'm going to apply that thought universally to all of the picks. Like, here's like what I mean by that. If this class had Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, who are going early, I think someone like Bucky Irving would be going 2 rounds higher in drafts, being like, this is a good class. Didn't get Gibbs and Bijan. Got to get my stabs of this good running back class. Like, I think that trickle down happens where you see like Roshan and, you know, even Tank Bigsby. He's the perfect one. Like another kind of middling talent that got steamed up partly because I think of this rookie enthusiasm. And this was behind a back in Travis Etienne, who was like really good. So I do wonder if that macro stuff just trickles down into public sentiment.
Yeah, although last year is funny because last year was also viewed as a bad running back class. And we didn't know we were going to get this running back class the following year. And so I think part of it is that we just do tend to be excited about the clear number 2 rookies that are kind of like, we don't know the profile yet. Kendre Miller, Tank Bigsby, Roshan, like, you know, we were getting excited. But, you know, Devon Achane was also that guy. We were like, you know, you're getting him at kind of right around the 10th round, and you know, that's an absolute smash. So I think generally this is a bad running back class. Like it is. It's a bad running back class. But Benson and Brooks are pretty reasonably priced. I'm drafting both of them. And then I agree with Ben that like the landing spot is pretty clean. Braylon Allen's done. I think Estime was pretty bad. Not maybe he kind of emerges, but I think we need like some OTA training camp hype to kind of get me back in. Shipley feels maybe draftable, but it's not ideal. Probably more of a dynasty type of dude. But then like Lauby ends up in a perfect spot. Ray Davis ends up in an awesome spot. Bucky Irving ends up in an awesome spot. I have my issues with Irving as a prospect, but still way ahead of ADP because like he might be the early down runner in Tampa Bay.
Right. He's the clear number 2. They don't have anything, and you already, and it's kind of a not. Sorry, what?
They tried out literally everyone else. Like this is it.
Yeah.
Like we know they don't have anything else.
And there's a talent deficiency at number 1. See, that's the way I ranked it in my post for anyone who hasn't checked out the Stealing Signals post. Is I ranked it by like how much my opinion changed because of the landing spot, which is kind of a weird way to do it. But like I started with, we haven't even mentioned Vidal, who I started as the number 1 because I think his landing spot was incredible. We know they're going to run a lot. Gus Edwards, we talked about this, I think, last week. Gus Edwards' efficiency already kind of fell off a little bit last year. J.K. Dobbins coming off an Achilles. You got all this, the stuff that could be very positive for him, although he was a round 6 guy, and there are concerns. But the point is, like, relative to what I thought about Kamani Vidal, whatever his name is, before the draft, I'm like a lot more interested after landing there.
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy behind Singletary is like,
yeah, Tyrone Tracy is an awesome pick. I think he's kind of like the Vidal that people aren't even like drafting a ton yet. I mean, he's getting drafted like in every draft, but he's not doesn't have the hype that Vidal does.
I will say he's moved up about a round, I want to say, because I noticed, because I put out my video, I did reverse engineering a draft on the Deposit Kingdom channel. And I took Tyrone Tracy, and then that just posted, and I was looking at his ADP compared to when I got him to what it was today. So he is starting to inch up, but still nowhere near like Vidal and Ray Davis.
So go ahead.
About as bad of a starter ahead. I mean, Devin Singletary is probably capable of just like holding it down all year, but I mean, like the talent level that you have to pass here is, it's pretty amazing how low that bar is for Tyrone Tracy. And here's the other thing about Tracy. He's going to return kicks, I think. And this new kickoff rule, like that makes things more important, like that you have the right guy active. So if he ends up winning the kick returning job, he's active. If he's active and Devin Singletary's your competition, and like what, it's going to be Eric Gray is the other active back. Like he could have a role right away because he's secured an active roster spot through the special teams role.
And I think that's the thing I've been wrestling with some of these guys, Vidal and Tyrone Tracy, even though I have been clicking them, is just like knowing the dead roster spot thing. And I've fallen prey to that, getting too fancy, taking the Izzy Abanikandahs and not really understanding that they could be a 0, and knowing that I will feel a lot better about the depth charts in August. But I think what's mitigated it is knowing that Tracy and Vidal are such obvious picks that there are going to be risers. And if I have those concerns now, I would rather get them at the cheaper prices. So I'm like kind of like offsetting that, where it's like, is the price now less risky than when they'll be 13th round picks or 12th round picks?
So I think this is a really good point. And this is the point that I was trying to drive home, which is this is more of a macro, really in the weeds with the draft and with like NFL history and like being obsessed with that kind of stuff. Take that. I don't think we've ever had a running back class in day 3 that I can remember. I didn't go dig through it all. I did click through a couple of the past years and look, but where there's enough guys that you can say this was a smash landing spot as we have this year. Like you just use the Abanikanda thing. We weren't calling it a smash landing spot. We were like, that's a disaster. Like that's a really, really bad one. The ones that I threw out, like the Pacheco one was a little bit later in the summer, but we knew like nobody really liked CEH. We knew there was like a potential for somebody to take that backfield over. The Algier one is the other comp where like everyone was like, well, Atlanta needs a running back. Like they didn't have Bijan then. The Dameon Pierce one for Houston's another great one. That's another one that I pulled up. And Roschon last year. And these guys played. They weren't zeros. All of those guys weren't dead roster spots. And that's the thing with Tracy and maybe not quite as much Vidal, who does have Edwards and Dobbins ahead of him, and they could just be veteran, deferring to the veterans all year, and they could just be kind of annoying about it with the Chargers. But Tracy looks very clearly like a top 2 running back in his backfield. Like the other guys they have on the roster right now, they've tried and have not really worked. Blake Corum got that same situation. Marshawn Lloyd got that situation. Trey Benson got that situation. Bucky Irving got that situation. Every one of those dudes does not really have competition for the number 2 job. And some of them you could argue might be able to compete for the number 1 or some early down work.
Especially at the end of the season. And also I would say there's a landscape where we're not sure about a number of spots. Like who's the number 2 in Indianapolis? Like it's probably Evan Hull, but like we haven't heard about Evan Hull in a while, and like it might not be. And so I'm not like drafting him right now. I'll draft the crap out of him if he's clearly the number 2 after the preseason and we get that information. But it's like a landscape where we don't know. So like getting a Ray Davis, getting a Blake Corum, getting a Bucky Irving, a Marshawn Lloyd, like those dudes, like a Tracy, I think fits with this. Where like I'm pretty confident he's going to have a role, or at least a role if something happens to the starter. And if you need a running back in that range, like, Elijah Mitchell was another guy like this before, but now we actually lose confidence that he's the number 2 because they draft Garendo. So, Tracy to me really, like, I just pulled up the beast. And this is what Dane Brugler had about him. Ranked 2nd in the Big Ten in kick return yardage in 2023, including a 98-yard touchdown return. Also stood out on kick and punt coverages with 6 special teams tackles. Then he says he needs to improve his decision-making at the line of scrimmage, but he can create with his lateral quickness, cuts, contact balance. He can stay on the field on passing downs. He's a multi-dimensional threat as a rusher, receiver, and special teamer, which will increase his chance of commanding an NFL roster spot. If you're just like, I don't want a dead roster spot, and I want a guy who has upside with athleticism, he's very athletic, pass-catching ability, which is the whole point of him. He's a converted wide receiver. Weak starter ahead. You're getting floor and ceiling. You're getting floor and ceiling with Tracy in the league.
Yeah. He's maybe more of a risk for a dead roster spot. I may be overstating that. The chat's saying it a little bit. I will point out Antonio Gibson did even less as a runner in college and was used early in the pros. They took him in the 5th round in the middle of this run. One of the things I talked about in my article is like the NFL also didn't think there was a high-end guy. They took Jonathan Brooks in the 2nd round, and then a few guys trickle out in the later part of the 3rd round. Well, Benson a little bit earlier in the 3rd round, but Corum and Lloyd. But then as soon as Jaylen Wright goes off in the 4th, there were 5 more taken in the next 15 picks. So 6 in a 15-pick span. And then in the 5th, there was another really big run. There was almost 20 backs taken in rounds 4, 5, and 6, none in round 7. Like a lot of times they actually wait till 7, or like some of these guys become UDFAs. As soon as teams started taking them, everyone jumped in and was like, we got a guy we like, we want to get. And they started coming off the board. And so the point is, if the Giants wanted an every down back, or that's what they were looking for, that model, like they could have taken Vidal. That's what he was like. What he was kind of a workhorse at Troy. They had other options, and there were a lot of other guys, and they could have even taken one earlier. It seems like they were maybe into Tracy. I think like the fact that they were willing to take him during this like run on running backs, I'm looking at that favorably.
Sacrilege is pointing out 98 yards to the fucking house. We are still in the lab thinking about clips. that may move the needle for me a little bit.
Tyrone Tracy would be a good one. The other thing too, it's like when you're on Tyrone Tracy, it's not mutually exclusive. Like Devin Singletary's price is extremely palatable.
Yeah.
There are certainly scenarios where he holds off and has the job the whole year and he pays off that draft cost. But again, when we're thinking about best ball, we're trying to get big wins at the end of the season. Tyrone Tracy is the only athlete in this backfield. He's the only back that runs quicker than a 4.5 40. Like he is the only guy with juice in this backfield. And if we see that juice, it's probably going to be in the final weeks of the season, whether because of chaos in the backfield or just because of his own efficiency. So, I mean, we're talking literally the only downside is if he is an outright zero. That's the downside. Anything else with him getting on the field, like you're loving it at this price.
He's also 209 pounds. So he's not 188, you're not like, he's not pure scat back. Like he could be out there as like a 1A back. That's not, I mean, it's just not that implausible that by the end of the season, he has a role like that. Devin Singletary's generally just been like a snap eater. And, the most likely scenario is that he just eats most of the snaps all season and Tracy has trouble, breaking in because they trust Devin Singletary. But like, it's pretty fragile though. Like Devin Singletary playing every snap all season is pretty fragile. And if there's no one else, like there's, and again, I think this is where the kick returning thing is important because it's like, he's going to be active. You need as many possible ways as we can get to be in the right place at the right time. And that kick returning ability, I think, helps him be the next man up.
Yep.
Some of the people in chat seem a little bit concerned about Tracy, and I get it. And I mean, I love that this is turning into a whole discussion about Tracy because he's awesome. He's a great example of this point, but maybe there's like a little bit more concern to him. But I will just drive home that like if you're concerned about that, someone said that the Giants number 2 is not on the roster. If you are concerned about that, fine. But you can still you have to pay a little bit more in drafts, but they're still very affordable. You can still then go to Corum or Lloyd or Benson or certainly Bucky Irving is cheaper even. But like looks like he's definitely going to be the number 2. So the big thing about Bucky Irving is he went as the 6th running back off the board. There was all these athleticism concerns. He was ranked like 10th plus on most people's boards. I remember on ESPN, he was like 5 running backs down on their best available running backs when he was selected. So when a team pulls him up over 4 guys on, a lot of these consensus boards at the position, 4 guys at the position, and he goes RB7 in the earlier part of the 4th round or RB6 in the earlier part of the 4th round, like that's their number 2. That's the dude that they liked. And now you can look at the rest of the profile. You don't have to worry so much about the athleticism. Like there's a lot of these dudes that I feel really confident aren't going to be 0. Some of them probably will be. I don't want to act like Tyrone Tracy's definitely not going to be a 0. And someone reminds us in October.
How on earth is Kendre Miller going to be a 0?
Right.
It will happen. We'll be wrong about some of these guys. But by the way, because now I've maybe overemphasized the special teams too much because someone said, is he just Kenny Nwangwu? Kenny Nwangwu had 7 career college receptions. Tyrone Tracy had 113. So I don't want to go too far to the specialty. It's nice, but the main part of this is that he's a receiving specialist in a way that the guy like Nwangwu just was not.
Gretch, was there anyone else of those rookies that kind of particularly stood out to you when you were doing that exercise?
Pat mentioned Ray Davis, who's another guy that I didn't when I was kind of going through the number 2s, but he feels like a pretty clear number 2, right? Like,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then the other one I like the landing spot, but don't necessarily love. And you mentioned Lauby as well. And like Garendo's kind of interesting just because anyone in San Francisco is interesting. But the other one that I like, but don't kind of love that we haven't mentioned yet is Jaylen Wright, where it's like, I do think it's easy to be like Raheem Mostert's 32. They drafted someone they're going to play over Mostert. Like they're not going to play him over Mostert. Mostert's a different type of 32-year-old. He just had his best career season at 31. He's not going to get usurped by anyone. They're going to get as much out of him as they can. Like they see him as their starter, right? Like he's a huge part of their offense until he gets hurt. At what point, if he does get hurt, Wright's opportunity is there. Or if it's Achane who gets hurt, I think Wright's opportunity is there. It seems like he's got 2 outs injury-wise, and you want players in Mike McDaniel's offense. We know that. They went after Wright's athleticism.
Like he's athletic. He's got size. He's 210. He's fast. He's a 2 down. Like he has red flags. He doesn't really catch passes. He's a one-cut runner, gets downhill, explosive, but he's not going to be involved as a receiver. The only place that I'm excited about him is in San Francisco or Miami, and he's in Miami.
Yeah.
So, all right, check. Then I've got a 32-year-old starter, and maybe the other guy who might be the starter is like 188 pounds. And even if he is awesome, is not going to get every touch. So, and we're in a system that traditionally rotates the backs, and you're asking me to pick 140 for this dude. Yeah, great. I will. That sounds awesome. Like, this is, there's a few backfields where we want to just be taking stabs. And this to me is one of them. It doesn't jump as like one of these highly uncertain backfields because Achan's going in like the second, third round. And Mostert's going like top 100. So it seems like we figured this one out, but we really haven't. This is actually somewhat uncertain of a backfield as we think about, especially the late season. What does this backfield look like? If you're giving me a cheap stab on an athletic downhill runner, like I don't even like Jaylen Wright that much, but like this feels like kind of an easy click to me. He's not like an absolute smash, but just
he could be a zero.
Happy to take him.
Yeah. He could be a zero, but he's a handcuff with ceiling. He's that type of player in your build. Like a lot of weeks, he probably isn't being used a lot. Either of those guys misses time, suddenly he could be a 15-point per game guy, and you're like, all right, I'm in. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And I think people, this happened last year, right? Anytime there's a backfield with three backs, the market struggles with that. And maybe last year I was like overconfident on the ambiguity of the Bears backfield resulting in like a clear winner, which didn't really end up happening. But I feel pretty confident saying there's asymmetric upside with the Dolphins backfield, that when like the risk at Jaylen Wright's ADP specifically is like fully baked out. You could say maybe not with Achans, like I'll listen to that argument, but at Wright's price, it's like all it takes is literally one injury or Mike McDaniel just using him as one of his weapons. He only has 5 weapons now. Like he's his 5th weapon in this offense.
Right.
Like it's just not hard for me to see him paying that off.
Yeah. And I mean, like the two last year, the backfields were like, just draft all the guys. Just draft all the guys. It was the Bears and it was the Dolphins. And the Bears might not have had, the Saints a little bit, but the Dolphins, the Bears basically didn't give us any hits, but the Dolphins gave us 2. So this general strategy works pretty well. And that's weird because, 2 of the guys this year are expensive now, but this is an offense we expect to put up points to the running back. This running back looks like he could be pretty talented and he's cheap.
And I just want to we've had a lot of fun talking about a couple of these names. I'm going back to the broader point again, but there's so many names that we've mentioned, and the chat even on a ship chasing show where we're all very rookie friendly, but we don't like running backs, and no one really likes running backs anymore.
They're even saying the 120s and 140s. That's what we draft. That's what
right. I know. That's what I'm saying. But like chat's like Sean Tucker over Bucky Irving. And like, I feel like they're not even like, even in our neck of the woods, they're not even buying this take so much because of, I think the day 3 capital is going to hang up a lot of people. My point is just, I think they're going to stay a value. There's enough names and there's enough people that go, well, they're day 3 capital. And the thing I've been trying to emphasize is this class, how many went in rounds 4, 5, and 6 was unique. And I don't think early day 3 capital at running back specifically is what it used to be, because we know that it's like takes a lot for a team to use a 3rd round pick on a running back these days, especially a 2nd round or higher. I mean, if you go look at the last few draft classes and you look through day 3, you'll see guys who got early opportunity. Some of them didn't even get rookie year opportunity, but like Kyron Williams is a day 3 guy who in year 2, they made him their guy. Like these teams don't treat day 3 capital like it's a throwaway at running back. They're like, this is a guy that's a part of our depth chart. Like he could play.
And you got to apply what the team did, like in a logically consistent way, like not to pick on the Sean Tucker example, but it's like the team told us how they feel about Sean Tucker when they made that Bucky Irving pick. Like you can't like,
they also told us how they felt when they didn't draft him.
So I think that's the teams give us such a big clue into how they feel about the players on their team. It's not just the picks they make, it's how they feel about their current roster. And that's why it's like if the Giants only sign Devin Singletary and then only spend a pick on Tyrone Tracy, they might feel pretty good about like where they're at or feel like they don't need to devote a lot of capital there. So I don't know. I think that's a point that gets lost sometimes.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think the other point that's big here, because I wasn't that big on some of these guys last year, although to an extent, maybe I was a little bit too bearish on like Chase Brown. But like I was pretty out on Zach Evans. Went to the Rams, I think, in the 5th round. And it's just like, but is there competition for the RB2 spot? And I think that's a really important part of this. And what are we getting from a sense from the team in terms of where these guys are going to slot in right away? And like it seemed so far it's been pretty bullish. Like the Bucky Irving one, like we know there's no competition for the RB2. We know with Kamani Vidal that we could be a little bit out over our skis. He could be a total 0, but the upside's so big. And also there's such a chance of like running away from us. Like in training camp, Vidal's working with the ones. He's a 8th round pick. Like, I don't want to take him there. That's too high. I want to get exposure now, understanding that there might be outcomes where like he is straight up undraftable late in the offseason. If I was like nitpicking, like, well, he really ought to be in the 180s, not the 160s. Like, who cares? Just get some now. It could really run away from us. I don't think this is a stand that we want to take, and you can deal with the 0. I know we are risking a 0 with Vidal, but the upside's big enough where I think it's okay doing that. Marshawn Lloyd, not a guy that I'm particularly into as a prospect. Kind of looks like a worse version of of Jaylen Wright to me. But he went ahead of Jaylen Wright in the draft, so maybe not. And everything out of Green Bay has been like, yeah, we don't know why they signed Josh Jacobs because we don't plan to use him like you would use Josh Jacobs. Kind of was into Aaron Jones, actually. Wish we didn't cut him. And I think we're going to use Josh Jacobs in a rotation because that's how I use my running backs. And also Marshawn Lloyd is pretty sweet, and we plan to involve him. Like it's pretty like almost everything you would want to hear if you're drafting Marshawn Lloyd. I was lower on him at first, and then like now I'm above ADP because I think he's going to have a role. We know AJ Dillon stinks.
He looks like a smash.
Yeah.
Boy.
So, yeah, I mean, like, I don't think at these prices, we don't want to like overthink it. If there's not that much competition for the RB2 role, if they, looks like they could immediately slot in there, and whether that's from what we know about the depth chart or from what the coaches are saying, then these guys are values at this point in the draft.
I was just clicking back through prior years again to make sure we hit on all the good names, basically, of good examples, because I think it's useful to look at those names. And we had mentioned some in the last couple of years, but you go back to 2021. I'm going to read a list of names. Every single one of them, they were 4th through 6th round picks. Every single one of them had 100 or more touches as a rookie. Michael Carter, Ramondre Stevenson, Chuba Hubbard, Kenneth Gainwell, Elijah Mitchell, Khalil Herbert. 6 dudes from the same draft class, all day 3 picks, all had 100 plus touches as rookies. Like that's not a 0. Elijah Mitchell had 200 plus. A couple of them were over 150. That's I think what we're going to get this year is we're going to get that 2001 group where they're like 6 dudes from day 3 are going to get 100 plus touches this year, and you're going to want exposure to these guys.
Yep. Yeah, it's just kind of like the perfect storm. You're getting the discounts coupled with good landing spots, which is just kind of a fun combination. And again, it sets up really nicely for these guys exist at like basically every round from once Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson go. Like you could pick which one of these guys you want at every step of the way.
And I'm doing a dynasty draft with Sean right now, and we had actually blanking on who we were deciding between. It was Bucky Irving and one of these other guys that that I like and I've taken a bunch of times. And I'm like, it was probably Tracy. And it was like, all right, let's take Irving, and it was nice because Sean really likes Irving. And so it kind of pushed me to get more of him. I think my point is we are going to be wrong about a lot of running backs in this class, but I think what we're all in agreement on is that like, this is fertile ground. This is like, as collectively, these running backs are in good spots. They're not expensive, and they have interesting parts of their profile. Now, in order for any one of these guys to really hit, things are going to have to go right. Like, for example, who was the hit from the group that Ben just read? It was Elijah Mitchell, right? Because he happened to be in the right situation. But Ramondre Stevenson the following year was a much bigger hit and probably the better running back of the two, but it didn't happen to be in his rookie season. So, like, even if you're right about who the best player is of this group, he might not be the guy to hit this year. I think spread out your bets to some extent among this group.
Yep,
for sure.
Let's do a draft. Do you guys have a contest you want to do? Do you just want to do a BBM, a puppy? there's some other smaller ones in the lobby. You guys have a preference?
I don't care. Well, Trey in the chat said,
"Look
at
high stakes podcast, man. We're drafting Chihuahuas now."
Yeah, we should do a preview. Trey in the chat says, "Look at the new Rashee Rice report." I assume that's the new one about him punching the.
I'm nervous that there's another new one.
Is there another new one?
It could be.
Yeah, don't say new with Rashee Rice if it was a digital.
Right.
That doesn't mean new.
I'm looking at the ship chasing Discord and no one's posted a link. I promise you, if there was a new report, the link would have been posted in there.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to ask. I figured the chat would have let us know too by now. More than
there was news today that civilians said that they disputed that there was any physical altercation. It was just shouting. So I don't know if that's the new part of the report, because that did happen today. But that was 4 hours ago.
Pat? Where are you guys? I saw Sacrilegious's note in the Leg Up Discord, and it was more in line with what I feel than basically everything I'm seeing on Twitter and stuff, which is I love our buddy Denny Carter, but Denny tweeted the other day, it wouldn't surprise anyone if Rashee Rice doesn't play another snap in the NFL. And I was like, yeah, but you can say that about anyone. We don't really know what's going to come on the off-field stuff. I still am no one made this big of a deal about the Jordan Addison stuff. There was a wreck. It is on film. There's more to the Rashee Rice thing. But Jordan Addison was clocked going significantly faster than Rashee Rice was going. Marquise Brown is another dude of the year prior that was speeding at a much higher speed than even Rashee Rice was going. Doesn't matter. But he was street racing and got in a wreck. There was some stuff, off the field stuff, concerns prior to him being drafted. And now I don't even know why he's in a nightclub right now when he's already got enough going on. I understand that it's a really dumb thing to add to what you've already got going on, but it's maybe just a shouting match with a bouncer or something. Maybe it was a physical altercation. He didn't.
The problem is that we're learning stuff where all of a sudden we're oh, he was off teams' boards. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, stuff starting to pile up where you're kind of what is the underlying cause of all of these things? Is there something
that's the concern?
Could create another thing. It's May, man. It is May 9th. We need this dude to get to the season at this point. I'm getting nervous where, I do think there's some concern about how many games does he play this year? I think it's is week 17 definitely he's playing? Do they install less plays for him than they would have? I think we're in that territory now, which is is his upside case actually getting affected by this, because the team's going to kind of build without him to some extent. Garrett Wilson.
Any votes for another pick other than Garrett Wilson at 111 in this draft?
I think this is pretty clear.
That's a really funny question. That to summarize what Pat is saying, is Rashee Rice now closer to Kadarius Toney or closer to Travis Kelce?
Right.
The chat is also saying Henry Ruggs is everyone's worry, and I get that, but I guess what I'm saying is the Henry Ruggs thing, while tragic,
Sorry, put a pin in it just for 20 seconds because we got to make a decision here. Marvin Harrison, Drake London, Jonathan Taylor.
I think I'm Harrison.
I'm fine with it. I haven't been taking a lot of Harrison.
All right.
But you don't usually get him this price. Is that was really tragic, and I'm not undermining the tragedy there, and it was a terrible decision. It was, he should not have been speeding and doing those things. But the reason Henry Ruggs is not that Henry Ruggs is a serial killer. It's that the outcome was a lot worse, and that's horrible. But what I'm saying is, I guess essentially, I don't think in any group of society, including in the NFL, that everyone is a saint, right? There's a lot of other dudes that we're drafting that probably have risk of off-field issues as well. And sometimes we maybe just don't hear about them. Sometimes we hear about them and they sound like this person's really kind of an asshole, but it doesn't end up being that big of a thing. Remember the whole Dalvin Cook thing with his ex-girlfriend? I don't remember what the deal was with that, but it seemed like he was kind of an asshole. And then it's yeah, but whatever, she was also weird. And so it didn't become a thing ever. Right. My point is, I don't think Rashee Rice is like everyone's saying what could come next. And that does seem like a legitimate concern. But in terms of analyzing his ability to play, the fact of the matter is the situations we know about aren't 10-game suspension situations, at least as far as I'm reading it. Yeah. Now, if he does another thing,
Drew Davenport said he thinks the floor is 6 to 8.
The floor?
Yeah, that's what he said.
I thought he was saying, is he a different legal one than the other person I was reading about who was saying there's another legal person that was like thinking it was like 1 to 2.
This was yesterday.
I included a link to this thread in the newsletter yesterday.
I still don't believe, however, that even if both charges are resolved before the season, that he misses the entire 2024 campaign. That would be exceedingly unusual, not ruling it out, but I highly doubt that. I'd say the floor, though, moves up to 6 to 8 games.
The floor. This is Drew Davenport's the same person that, if I'm not mistaken, that a few weeks and maybe like a month ago,
I think this incident
was making me feel like it might only be 1 to 2 games.
It changes it though, because it's like, what are we suspending him for? And it's kind of like we're starting to suspend you for just like kind of who you are, like that's like the NFL is like starting to be like, all right, dude, like so. And this is this whole thing is PR for the NFL, right? That's what it comes down to. So the perception of this makes a big difference, and I think it should just look at the reaction. It shifts the perception when you have the incident that he had, and then you have this second incident, which is just like, what is going on? And then you have all these reports coming out. So
the question then becomes, like, let's say it's 6. The NFL always seems to err on the softer side of those ranges. Then you're in Jameson Williams territory, right? As far as missing 6 games, people were happily taking Jameson Williams around pick 100. In drafts. I mean, Rice is already falling to pick 70 in some spots, much better player, proven player than what we've seen from Jameson. Like, you already start to wonder into, is the risk already baked in at that fall price, assuming a 6-game suspension?
Yeah. So what Sacrilegious posted yesterday in the Discord was basically just like, let's take a day off on drafting Rashee Rice. Let's let him fall. Yep. And I think you could apply that to today as well. And just letting him fall, pushing him every time. Like, you're getting him 3-4 picks past ADP, not enough. Pushing him, seeing if he comes back another round. That's cool. I think that's the way to play it, because we don't want to be right. This is a player that, like, I already had a bunch of leg up subscribers will have already had a bunch of, like, I thought he was a pretty good value before. I don't want to ride it all the way down. I want to, at this point, let the freak out kind of run its course, and then see where that lands him. And if it lands in a spot where I think the risk, the reward justifies the risk, then we start taking him again.
We are on the clock by rank. We got Hurts, Jacobs, Kelsey, Lamar. We do got some wide receivers, Zay, T, Pittman. What do you guys think?
I think I'd go Kelsey.
That's who I was looking at, or going one of the receivers. But yeah, I think Kelsey's a good pick.
Grab Kelsey, and then we'll probably still not.
We're sitting here talking about how Rashee Rice might miss the whole year. That's the dude that is like a threat to Kelsey's like specific type of usage in that short intermediate range.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's always a good way to play it. Like, when there's uncertainty, make the room, like, force you to make the pick, essentially. I think you guys want to grab Tank. Yeah.
Let's do another share of Tank. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep.
Pete's got the Tank on. He's got the Tank fever. He already said it's Pete's guy is the Tank.
Now, I was listening to the Roto World football show, and it's the Pat and Denny one, and Roto Pat said, "Is Tank Dell even draftable now?" And Denny was like, "Yes." And he's like, where should he go? Like, I don't know. Like, what is the 8th round? Maybe the 8th round would be okay. And I was just sitting here like, I mean, Rotopat has no idea. Like, he doesn't know we're taking Tank Dell in the 4th and are excited about it. But like,
you're the guy in that meme in the corner. Yeah, he doesn't know we're taking Tank Dell.
36% exposure to Tank Dell in the early 4th.
In the 4th. But it did make me wonder that, like, are we gonna see Tank Dell drop a lot? Like, because I know for one guy who's not super into the best ball streets, at least, is going to come in and be like, 4th round Tank Dell. I think is he kind of a guy maybe where not that we're wrong. Like, I think this is a good price. I just made the case on Bad Pros that he's a good pick in the 4th round, and I do think he is. But is he like a potential faller when more casuals come in?
Definitely. Or Diggs and Collins both going in the side. I think people are going to freak out about that too.
The only reason I would say maybe not is because when the casuals come in is going to coincide with either more bullishness or bearishness about how he's recovering. And I mostly attribute this price to ambiguity about his return from injury. I think if we felt really good, like if he never got injured last year, I think he would be going like mid third round, early third round. So
with Diggs there, I don't know if I buy that.
I mean, why would Diggs impact Dell but not Nico's?
That's how
ADP?
I feel.
Well, mostly because Nico was quite a bit better. Like if you look at yards per out run and stuff like that,
But some
Nico
of that was done with Dell off the field.
Okay. That's fair.
I think Dell was the better of the two when they were both playing.
Was he?
So
his yards per out run finished
yards per out run was higher, but
it finished at 2.22, which is good. Very good for a rookie. Sorry. I mean, I said that as if it wasn't good. Nico was great at 3.10. Like he was on a different plateau. That's the only reason I would say that. And then I guess just wait
Dell get hurt
as well. Like week 12ish.
Like
week
13 11 or 12.
Yeah, let me pull that up. I'm gonna see if I can figure out the yards per route run while they were both playing.
It is a really interesting thing because I mean we do know like in general of like when you have a little bit of ambiguity, playing it through the cheapest piece is nice.
Yeah.
And yet the delta between their ADP,
Right.
it's not massive enough. Like if you wanted to say I strongly feel like Diggs is way better, like be like okay. Whereas like in where the year Debo was a smash pick. I mean, his gap in ADP from those other guys was just ginormous.
I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the example is actually Ben's guy, Rome Odunze. Like that's the one where you're getting a dude in the 6th, 7th round where, at the end of the season, could he be the top target? I don't think it's, out of the realm.
It could be at the beginning of the season. As far as I'm concerned.
Well, that would surprise me, but
it'd be a little surprising. But you guys haven't seen Rome Odunze play enough.
It's so funny because when you started talking about Rome Odunze, he's like this 4-year guy, and like there's some holes in his profile, or like some red flags, I suppose. But you were kind of nervous that I was going to be out on him. But I love that this is broken. Where I'm like, no, we're drafting Rome Odunze.
We're drafting Rome Odunze. All right, I'm in, man.
By the way, Sean's completely out on him.
Yeah, me and Sean have had a tough time.
You were right to be nervous about
testing our friendship on a personal level.
Jaden Reed, Terry McLaurin. I like both of those guys. Rashad White, George Kittle, Kenneth Walker. But I think Reed or McLaurin. What do you guys like?
That's where I'm at.
I would
Scratch.
I would prefer McLaurin. I think if I was picking one.
Let's do it.
Also,
McLaurin
always nice to have a Jaden Daniels out.
Right.
Yeah. Especially with
I haven't taken a lot of McLaurin, but I think Jaden Daniels could be good for him. I mean, he's not like a superstar, but a late 5th price on him is cheaper than people used to think he was like a 3rd round type wide receiver. Now we get the later in his prime, no longer, like a sexy name. We get the 5'11" price. It's kind of nice.
We have seen like this be an archetype of kind of 5th round wide receiver breakout. It's like a guy we're all like, yeah, he's pretty good, and then like something changes and we're like, yeah, but I don't know, I'm bored of him.
Yeah, but it was like there was
Evans,
more meat on the bone, and he was
Mike
able
Evans
to take it to another level.
Yeah. All right, so when through week 12, because Tank Dell was hurt in week 13, he only had 4 routes. Through week 12, Nico was better, 2.56. Dell, oh, I forgot to. This is slightly.
We're about to pick.
They were basically tied.
This pick. So he goes George Kittle. This could be an anchor here with Rashad White slipping past ADP or Kenneth Walker, otherwise reaching for another wide receiver.
This is where I would take White or
Odunze.
I like Walker. I would take a Odunze too.
You want to do a Odunze?
Yeah, let's do a Odunze.
I mean, when we already got the 4 other names that we feel really good about,
also do Marquise Brown, but Odunze is way more fun.
Odunze is like this is a good build to put him onto. I don't really love those. I would have probably been fine with Walker over Rashad White, but
yeah,
I don't really love taking
it's
those.
Just the
running
ADP
backs.
of White, but Walker,
yeah. And the 2v2s later, it's like we're gonna like a lot of running backs later. We always do.
Yeah.
You know, like every draft I do, I'm like, I want to take a running back at every pick. Like, there's always good running backs.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is also like another thing to do right now, a case for like if you really want to take advantage of some of the rookie risers, and we talked about this a lot last year, where it's like, okay, you do a modified, zero RB build where you take your running back in the 5th or 6th, and then you pretend like that running back pays off as a first round value. And you actually have an anchor running back build, which would allow you to push your second running back further than you would feel comfortable with a normal 5th round pick. Like, I think you could do that right now with extreme zero RB and saying like a couple of the guys we get in the 9th and 10th round, whether it's a Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, a Zach Moss, we treat them like 5th round running backs,
right?
Where it's like, and then we build around that and just saying, we think we're going to get a huge windfall of value. What can we do within this structure with that in mind?
I like that.
Love it.
Yeah, Doomsday there is pretty fun, especially, kind of giving us that late season upside as well. Marquise Brown, I guess, makes slightly more sense from a stacking perspective, but we don't have Mahomes. And like, we're kind of just betting on Kelsey, so I like it. And I especially think what you're saying, Pete, is true about like a Jonathan Brooks. Like Brooks, if he wasn't coming off the torn ACL, would probably be like, he would be a 5th, 6th round pick. And so what you're betting, especially at the end of, like, if we can get like a Brooks type, and then we can, get that late season upside, the easiest thing to fill in right now, the easiest thing is those early season touches. Those are cheap as hell.
Yeah, that's a good point. Rice goes there at 608. Something else I wanted to put a bow on that, which was part of, I think, Sack Religious's message as well, is just this idea that, like, yes, there's a ton of risk. Yes, we should let him fall way past ADP. All those things you said, I completely agree with. But like, he went after Calvin Ridley in Tennessee right in this draft. He went after Marquise Brown, who maybe Marquise Brown now is more interesting. He's at a point in the draft at this point, maybe he has to fall further than this even for me to make this case, but where I think the upside for him is quite a bit higher. I mean, again, I was just saying Tank Dell had a really good rookie season at 2.2 yards per route run. Like, Rashee Rice had that as well. He was right in that range. He was even higher in the regular season, a little bit lower after you bring in the routes from the postseason, but did so at a really low ADOT, really high catch rate, good yards after the catch, strong yards per target, especially when you adjust for that low depth. There's a lot of stuff about his profile that's like really bullish if this is a blip in the road for him, but it's maybe not. So like, I'm not saying we like go all in on him or anything, but I do think the thing that I liked, I just wanted to emphasize that Sacrilege just said was like, you're drafting one team. You are still trying to build the best possible team you can. You don't want him to have like too high of exposure and ruin too much stuff. But when you start to get these prices on a player like that, what that can mean for that build, if he's actually not suspended that much, it can mean a lot for that build. If you're getting like a, whatever you think he is, 3rd round talent in the 7th round, like that's interesting.
Yeah. Especially if you're building, if he's your wide receiver 3, like, I don't think that's going to work. But if you're building aggressively with wide receivers early and tacking him on almost like a rookie, like you're like, he's a rookie again. But like, think about it like that, right? He's a rookie again, so the first 8 weeks probably don't matter. But we actually know he's good. I mean, that's about as good of like a 7th round, 8th round rookie pick as you can make.
When you said the wide receiver 3 thing, I thought you made the point of the 8 weeks, but I thought you were thinking. I mean, I would love him if he was your wide receiver 3 and he actually didn't get suspended. You'd be like, because then you're stacked everywhere else. You're like, man, I got a great price on my wide receiver 3 on top of 2 good running backs or something, Yeah.
Anyway,
Kyler with Marv seems great. We could probably push him around maybe if we want to take the Montgomery value. Any thoughts?
I probably grab
5 seconds. Gretch, you good with Kyler?
My risk aversion would have been to grab Kyler as well. I thought that was great, but Montgomery is a really interesting RB1, and so when you said we could probably push him around, I was open to that because I trust you. You read rooms way better than I do. But
he had Lamar, so I thought maybe, and he only had 2 wide receivers, so I was like, he's pretty behind the 8 ball.
When someone has 2 wide receivers through 5 rounds, though, I'm like, I don't know what you're gonna do.
Right.
we are not the same.
We are not the same.
We are not the same. I can't even get in your head, man. You're
Yeah.
a wild card.
You're seriously. That's great.
There are a lot
Okay,
of
go
quarterbacks
Xavier.
you could take. Wow.
This is a
All right,
nice
let's do
value
it.
on
This is a nice
Montgomery.
value.
Love that.
So here's the team through 8. We got Kyler stacked up with Marvin Harrison. Just grabbed our first running back, David Montgomery, in the 8th. The full wide receiver room: Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison, Tank Dell, Terry McLaurin, Rome Odunze, and then Travis Kelce at tight end. So pretty nice there. Some upside at the onesies, cheap running back production in Montgomery, and 5 really fun wide receivers.
Jeremy's saying Rice is what we were playing for JSN to be. And yeah, I think it's kind of true. I think the reason to let him fall right now is that, like, I kind of want to see like where he lands. Like, does he end up in the 8th? Does he end up in the 9th? And then also, like, just like the whole thing of, like, are we potentially looking at like the early beginning of a situation that led to his relationship with the team deteriorating? You know, like, if I would like the rate of incidents should probably slow down.
Yeah. That would be ideal. I wish it would stop doing that too. The only other reason, like when you talk about the team, the only other reason that I'm like mildly optimistic is the Chiefs have had a lot of stuff. It goes beyond just like the Tyreek Hill and stuff. They've had a lot of stuff, and Andy Reid's put up with a lot of stuff. They still have Kadarius Toney on the roster, and they literally had to deactivate this guy for the Super Bowl. He was so big of a distraction. They're like, dude, like, we can't even bring you to the Super Bowl. Like, and he's tweeting like the day of the game, like, about how much it was bullcrap that they deactivated him or whatever. They were telling lies or whatever it was. And it's like, dude, your teammates are about to go play the Super Bowl and you're like trying to make this about you. I mean, like, how? And they still have him on the roster. I thought they were going to cut him right away in the offseason. I mean, like, Andy Reid has a lot of patience. I'll put it that way.
I finally have the stats here on the Texan stuff. So through week 12, so Tank Dell was at 2.24 yards per route run because there's 4 extra routes that he got tacked on in week 13. Nico Collins at 2.56. So that's, decently ahead, but both were really good. Then the remainder of the season, week 13 through the playoffs, Nico Collins had a 4.18 yards per route run. So there, I do think
there was no one else drawing any volume.
Yeah, there was no one else. Over that span, second highest in yards per route run was Brevin Jordan at 2.20 on a limited sample, and then Dalton Schultz was only at 1.67. The next highest wide receiver was Noah Brown at 0.89. So it just ran through Nico at the end of the season, and that's probably the most like fragile part of this, right? That's the part that's not going to happen again. That's
not going to happen again.
Competition.
But it speaks favorably for me when I had some questions still. I think a little bit of questions about Nico and just like how much is the system and all of that. It speaks really favorably that like no one's drawing any coverage from him. They're going to the postseason. Everyone knows, because remember he had a good postseason game. Like everyone knows the offense is going through Nico, and he's still putting up those types of per route production like that.
Nico's good.
He's good.
Nico's good. Yeah, there's no doubt Nico's good.
All right, we are on the clock here. Brian Robinson could be a way to build out.
I know you don't like Robinson so much, but I like him here building out the bet.
Did we do Robinson versus Javonte on the last stream? That's why I started laughing.
Yeah, we did.
Or was it Robinson versus Chase Brown? I love
it was Robinson
here.
versus Chase Brown. I think we go. I mean, we have a chance to do a Washington.
The case for Brian Robinson is we're going to make a huge Washington stack.
We didn't let Pat do that last time. Wait, we take Jaden Daniels on the way around the time. Okay.
That's the idea.
This is the shit that I never build into my builds. Like, I don't think through the stacks as well as you two. I love drafting with you guys. Yeah, this is great. I love it.
I mean,
Jaden Daniels.
I also just think about Brian Robinson a lot because I drafted.
See, I just look at that and I go, like, I'm so into Javonte. I gotta click him there.
Do you guys?
And it's totally just about volume. He was bad last year, but like Sean Payton used him despite him being really bad a lot. Like they've added some other backs, so maybe that's not going to carry over. But I'm seeing. I like
Javonte too. I like Javonte.
The other theme to this is we have a street cred element. Tank Dell, Brian Robinson, guys who have taken a bullet, are who we're putting on our
many
team.
Men wish death upon me.
But these dudes are just like just chilling. They're just hanging out. Brian Robinson was sitting in his car.
Exactly. So we do take Jayden Daniels. So now we got Jaden, Brian Robinson, and McLaurin, and then we got Kyler with Marvin Harrison. So this is fun in that you're getting the two monster upside rushing QB profiles that are also the cheapest. Like all the other ones go, in rounds 3 through 5. So it's a fun pairing.
It is. It's very fun.
Let's see here. Yeah. So 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 5 wide receivers, 1 tight end there. And like, we don't miss out. Like Caleb Williams had already gone off the board with Rome. Like you can always do the Aaron Rodgers stuff late. I didn't see anything else like screaming at us to be like, man, punt QB2 a little bit more. Like I didn't see that pick.
It's a good, I'm finding it like somewhat hard to get Daniels, which I definitely want exposure to him. This is a really good way to do it. Like you actually want McLaurin and Robinson on the Daniels build. You want to say that Daniels is going to be good. The offense is going to be good. And if that's the case, like the guys that are the incumbents are going to be, they're going to be good as a result.
It could literally be what, like if Anthony Richardson had stayed healthy the whole year, you had the Anthony Richardson, Zach Moss, and Michael Pittman, like all those guys were feasting
yes.
in that offense.
That's right. I'm a little more concerned about Austin Eckler than Pat seems to be. I guess I would want to hear his thought on that, but he had to bounce for a sec. But
yeah, we were, you and I, we talked about that. I think it was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I think I was with you in that, like, part of what was exciting about Brian Robinson last year was he was getting some screen pass usage. And you just got to imagine that really dries up.
And what if Eckler's like has a rebound year? Like, I don't think I don't want to catch the falling knife on Eckler, but we know he's like a workout warrior. We know he takes good care of himself. He turns 29 this year, not 31. Like, it's actually next week. It looks like he's turning 29 here in May. So it's not like he's going to play at 28 this whole year, but his efficiency fell off last year for sure, but he still got over 200 touches. And the 2 years prior to that, he led the NFL in touchdowns 2 years in a row. Like, I know he's on a different team, and usually when you see the fall off like we did in 2023, that's it. But I'm at least like, I'm not saying I want to draft Eckler. I don't want to be acquiring him in like pretty much any format, but it concerns me for Brian Robinson that Eckler could just be the better back, like, potentially show enough excitement and explosiveness.
He could easily do what Kamara did last year too, going in a very similar range for different reasons, albeit, but partly because of that age cliff concern. I say that as someone who has not clicked Austin Eckler once, though, so I have not put my money where my mouth is.
It's more for me the risk on Robinson. Where are you at with Eckler's impact on Robinson's value, Pat?
I mean, Eckler was not sought after in free agency in a year where a bunch of other running backs were surprisingly sought after. I think, the Kamara thing is basically he survived last year because they're like, we don't have anyone else. We're just going to give you kind of all of it, almost like he was sort of Devin Singletary in kind of a way that they throw to him more. But like that sort of, you're the best option and we trust you, so you're just going to play every down. It's tough for Eckler to have that role because he's new to the team, and Brian Robinson has been kind of that guy as an early down dude. So I think Robinson's role is probably pretty secure in the early down, 2-down capacity. Eckler had a really bad success rate last year.
Jerry Jeudy, Dallas backs, Zach Charbonnet.
Oh my God, Zeke's going this high now?
I would probably do Jeudy or Charbs here. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think.
Is there rookie running backs we can grab after we talked about them a bunch? Are there other?
Charbonnet or Dallas back, I think, is the move.
I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a little confusion, so I just grabbed Charbs there.
Will you just click on RB real quick? Who's
It's kind of like the next pick range will be a nice one, although I don't mind if we wanted to reach for one. Are
you guys in a Dowdle?
I've been taking Dowdle a lot.
I would actually hammer him at a cheaper ADP than Zeke. I mean, I think you have to bet on Zeke not really being. I mean, I understand the touchdown thesis, and he'll get the deference from the Cowboys, but
the only thing is like. Yeah, and I think we'll have some wide receivers we like if we're comfortable still with just this 5 here.
Who are we back? Who went? Dowdle went.
Sorry, my bad. Jeudy, Dowdle went. So we have to make a different decision here. We can do a rookie wide receiver, Pearsall, Legette.
Yeah, I would
That's
probably
fine.
be Legette. I don't know. What do you?
We
Yeah,
could also
let's
just
do
grab like
Legette.
a Jaylen Wright, who probably doesn't come back.
Yeah, I'd be good with that too.
All
We
right.
need the running
We
back
were-
upside, I think, more than wide receiver.
We'll be able to hit running
I
back
think
upside next pick.
Okay.
I think it's close. I mean, with 5 wide receivers and 2 of them are rookies. David Montgomery, Brian Robinson, Zach Charbonnet. I think it's pretty close. I just think like I feel way better about some of these rookie running backs coming up than I think I do about like that next tier of wide receivers.
Yeah, I think that was structurally fine. There's always fun running back picks. That's the rule.
There are.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Legette's not like super fun, but he's gonna run routes. They took him in the first round. Like he's got draft capital. He's gonna play a lot. He's got a lot of athleticism. He's a fun. I mean, I guess I said he's not fun, and then I actually think he's like really fun. It's just is Bryce Young good enough? But like,
Right.
Legette in the 12th round, dude, like big athletic monster that's gonna run a ton of routes, and he's gonna have some usable weeks from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, he's definitely intriguing. First, I mean, it's about in all formats, it's about as cheap as you're ever going to find a first round wide receiver, which is pretty interesting given how we're pricing up everybody.
Mm-hmm. And
by the way,
Pearsall too. Him and Pearsall.
Yeah, well, Pearsall's. I mean, I like taking Pearsall, just as like a I don't know what's going to happen on New Year's Day next year kind of pick, but I know the 49ers are going to be an offense I want a piece of. That's like the whole.
Yeah,
that's it. But people
you can't
like,
make the routes case I just made for Legette. You can't make for Pearsall. But
no, you can't. There's like it's a really hard case to make other than like 49ers good, January 1st far away.
And Pearsall will, like, as the summer progresses and no trade happens, Pearsall will get cheaper, right? Yeah, like more non-rookie chasers will be in drafts. They'll do the same thing that they're doing with Jaylen Wright. Don't like this depth chart, and he'll slip a bit.
I think we want to be pretty overweight on Pearsall if he falls to like the 15th round. Like that, yeah. I think he's.
I brought him up because you said the Legette point about a first round receiver going this late, and I mean Pearsall went a pick before Legette, right? Like,
yeah.
It's wild.
Although I think maybe because I'm in these leagues, but I've taken a lot of Ricky Pearsall in Dynasty. Ricky Pearsall to me is one of the biggest layups in Dynasty that we're going to get. First round wide receiver on the 49ers. They just tried to trade the 2 guys ahead of him all offseason. Guess what's going to happen next year? One of them's gone. That's how that's going to go. So you're talking about Ricky Pearsall ascending into an every down role in the 49ers as a previous first round pick. I think a mid-second is not going to do it. If you go to the guy next year, hey, Ricky Pearsall, I'll give you the 205. He's going to be like, go fuck yourself. That's how that's going to go. So if you could take Ricky Pearsall to 205 now, I would do that.
Yeah. All right, here's the squad. We got the 2-3-6-1, Kyler and Jayden at quarterback, David Montgomery, Brian Robinson, Zach Charbonnet at running back, wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Tank Dell, Terry McLaurin, Rome Odunze, Xavier Legette, and Travis Kelce still holding it down for us at tight end.
Do we have options at tight end? We just got to wait. Tight end. It's a Kelce or bust team. That's fine.
Well, there's a very, very obvious pick that I'm
it's an obvious pick
just talking about other stuff.
We might want to do it soon, though.
Yeah. It's just if there's anything before the wrap here. So there goes Ben Sinnott, 1 pick ahead of us.
Yeah, I was gonna make a case for him here.
Yes. Yeah. Oh no, it was here or bust, but he didn't even get here.
I mean, not pushing him around the wrap is what I meant.
Oh yeah.
About V
guys, I think
Vidal.
I think there's an answer here. Yeah, it's Vidal. We should take Vidal.
Okay. All right, let's do it. Get some touches.
Yeah.
Get some upside. Get some late season upside. We talked about how we're going to find a dude who's going to unlock this team. I mean, he's
Can we draft one guy who runs faster than a 4.6 40?
No, because Bucky Irving's our next pick, and he does not run faster than that.
Yes, the Kyle Pitts drafter, of course, drafting Ben Sinnott.
Man.
I
didn't know he was going that high. When you said the obvious pick thing, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Bucky?
Yeah, I
Or
like Bucky.
Musgrave, if you want to hit tight end a different way right now.
I'm not opposed.
I'd go Bucky. We'll talk about hitting these rookie running backs.
Yeah, I like it. We'll keep pushing tight end too.
We have Kelsey.
Jackards, come on down.
No, that's where I draw the line. Pat already had to pull the car over on the highway and let his family know what happened with it.
Pete, you teased the South American wood thing. Pat, I really enjoyed reading that. That was a fun story to learn about.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's funny. It was a fun article to write because I was like, first of all, I mean, you're like, 500 words deep, and I'm still talking about the rainforest. So I enjoyed the natural confusion that would ensue. I had someone go, I had to triple check I was reading the right newsletter. But also, it just sounds like, and by the way, I'm referencing an article. It's free on Legendary Upside. Check it out. Everyone check it out. The Tree of Jaccard. But it's a story about this real tree they found in the rainforest of Central America in 1965 that they chopped down wrong and fell into a ravine for a decade. And then someone went and checked it out and trucked it out, and it became this extremely rare tone wood that is now basically the rarest tone wood on Earth. So obviously, naturally, I compared it to an 18th round hit.
Were you familiar with this story previously, or were you stumbling upon this more recently and then was like, wow, I see the similarities?
It kind of started with, so I was, I've been kind of poking around looking at guitars, and you look at guitars and then you're like, what's the kind of the better version of this? And then I kind of was like, oh my God, you could actually, because the crazy thing is you can order a new guitar. This tree was huge. This, again, found in the 1965, didn't even start getting used to make guitars until the 80s, but that's the 80s. They've been making guitar with one tree, but there's still fresh, virgin lumber of this available or whatever it's called. And you today could order a new guitar that had this wood as the back and sides. So there's that much of it. So, I'm kind of poking around. Just guys, I didn't do this, by the way. I didn't order it. I was like, I won't take care of this enough. I can't order a tree and then have it get a crack.
Oh, I definitely thought you ordered the tree.
No, I didn't. I didn't order the tree. I literally was like, this is almost it's almost immoral to order it and then not take care of it properly. I won't take care of it well enough. You need to have this thing in a humidified room and whatnot. But anyway, so that was kind of, I'm poking around and looking at fun, way too expensive guitars. And then Sacrilegious wrote his article on Jaccard Similarity. And I was basically the way I'm thinking through player stands is that look, if I think I have this awesome dude, I still want to take him a ton, but then I'm more thinking about how do I diversify around that guy and have a portfolio of teams around kind of my Breece Hall stand from last year. The thing I regret about that is not that I took way too much Breece Hall. I probably didn't take enough. The thing I regret is that I didn't do a good enough job. I did an okay job, but not a good enough job of diversifying around. So I have a lot of different types of Breece Hall teams because I'm not as confident about what things are going to bubble up around Hall to help him get there in the final. I was probably a little too concentrated with my secondary bets. And that's basically what the whole article is about.
Tight ends went crazy off the board. We could make this the theme of the show with Tyrone Tracy here.
I think
it's our first athletic running back.
Exactly. I said I wanted one. Let's do it.
We got a guy with a little bit of juice.
I mean, if we want to look down the road at tight end, I mean, I do like Noah Fant. I guess. Yeah,
I like Fant a lot. I was going to suggest him as the pick coming back potentially. Right here, in 2 picks. Are we on the clock?
Sorry, I keep forgetting you guys can't see up there. Yeah, we're on the clock. You good with Noah Fant?
Yeah. Sack loves Noah Fant. Speaking of Sacrilegious.
Yeah,
he's gonna run a career high routes. I mean, it's a little tricky because there's 3 good receivers ahead of him. But
yeah,
I mean, unless you think JSN is going to be a total bust, then you should be even more in on Fant. But even as the 4th guy in the passing game, it's a Dalton Schultz type bet at this point. You know what I mean?
I'm hesitant to say this because I don't need sacrilegious to be any more bullish on Noah Fant than he is. But is it a little David Njoku? Like his career arc? Remember when Njoku got buried and he was kind of just like in a split role, and then they're like, no, we're going to use him now. Finally, that he's like 27 years old, we decided it's time to use Njoku, and then they did.
Yeah, it's funny how that perception works, right? Because when he was drafted, it was like, this isn't the next athletic freak tight end.
Zach, in all caps, yes, that's what I've been saying. Why did I keep that thought to myself?
But because the fantasy production, we haven't ever seen like a true breakout or whatever, his connotation in drafters' mind is bland. It's like more like, Will Dissly, not, David Njoku, because he hasn't been featured.
But like, so Chaos Toffee says, what about Jared Cook as a, late career breakout? Eric Ebron had that too, but they changed teams. And it's like weird that he's like back in Seattle. It's basically the same situation, except he probably runs more routes now that Dissly's gone and stuff. But like, you're like, well, they don't really give a shit about him. But like the Browns did this. The Browns were like, we like Austin Hooper more than you for some reason. And then 2 years later, they were like, actually, we care about you now. And I don't know why that happened. But
he is still in Seattle, but they went with a different offense now, a new coordinator, a different scheme. And I mean, I think that the new head coach, like they could come in and be like, yeah. And I think they kind of already did when they let Dissly and Colby Parkinson walk. They're like, we don't see tight end the way the last regime saw tight end. The last regime in Seattle was like, Will Dissly, we're paying him a lot of money, like every year, to just like make sure that we have a tight end 2 for some reason, which always limited Fant's routes. But like, this is now a situation where Fant could, for the first time, actually be the sole tight end. And
yes,
pretty nice. He wasn't even that in Denver. He never has any, he has some decent per route stuff, but it's mostly earlier in his career. The one concern would be that last year his yards per out run was a career low. So it's like, well, is he getting worse as he gets older? But the whole body of work is still okay. It's competent. It's not bad.
Yeah. The flip side to this is that he's Irv Smith.
He's been better at target earning than Irv Smith for the majority of his career.
Yeah, it's been
Irv
a while.
Smith was like a 15% targets per out run guy. Noah Fant was down to 13% last year, but the first 4 years of his career, 16 plus, 3 years in a row was 18 plus. Like he's actually shown like that's like decent for a tight end. Those are good target rate per route numbers.
Can I interest you guys in a QB3 stacked up with our first round pick at price 203, 50 plus picks past ADP?
Nobody's drafted Aaron Rodgers yet?
No one's drafted Aaron.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Let's take him.
Yeah, we got 2 mobile quarterbacks. Either of those guys could get banged up and miss some time, and we need Rodgers to help us.
Or just Rodgers has a spike week that's tied to Garrett that gets us through.
Yeah,
that. I was just thinking like we could get Daniels or Kyler through low owned by adding Rodgers at this point. That's another thing. Let's
do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we can figure out what we want to do, running back or wide receiver. We have 6 wide receivers, 6 running backs. Jalen McMillan.
Is Dortch here?
Dortch went. I saw that. I know.
He's perfect for this shit.
Yep.
Do we don't have a good stack ad here? Dotson and those guys are all gone.
McCaffrey, is McCaffrey here?
Alan Lazard.
McCaffrey's long gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, McMillan or Rondale Moore, I think, are the ones that I would.
All right, we'll go with McMillan. Grab another rookie here. And we had taken Bucky. Get a pair of bucks here. So Rodgers. I've seen Rodgers fall. 20, 25 picks. I haven't seen him fall 56 picks. That's pretty crazy. All right. This team's in the books. 3-6-7-2 build. Kyler, Jayden Daniels, and Aaron Rodgers. 6 running backs, 0 RB room. David Montgomery, Brian Robinson Jr., Zach Charbonnet, Kamani Vidal, Bucky Irving, Tyrone Tracy. Just realized the Noah Fant, Zach Sharp's little pairing there as well. Wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Tank Dell, Terry McLaurin, Roma Dunze, Xavier Legette, and Jalen McMillan. Tight end, Travis Kelce, and Noah Fant. Very young at wide receiver, but I think this team is pretty fun.
It is fun. We got the rookie running. There was a theme of the show tonight. We got
It was.
those rookie running backs. We used it to unlock an early tight end pick, some wide receiver firepower in the early rounds. It's a coherent and pretty fun build.
Yeah.
Pete, last week you were asking for people to throw up ship chasing at work. We got a video of they weren't able to get ship chasing up, or a picture on Twitter. They weren't able to get ship chasing up, but they got a Rojo. Oh, because of restrictions, he couldn't get ship chasing, but he went ahead and threw some clips up of Rojo.
Yes, that's way better. I like
got the 98 yards to the house in the back.
Yes.
This is so good. Let me get this here. So shout out to Vince here. I couldn't pull up shit chasing at work due to restrictions, but I was able to grind some tape. One of the best running backs. You can see, this is the most corporate America conference room I've ever seen. And it is Ronald Jones about Rojo. To take it to the house.
98
Love
yards
it.
to the fucking house. Shout
out Vince. DM me your email and I'll get you a ship chasing gift card here. Well done. First Thursday afternoon show in the books. While we were on the air, I got a message from Leone. He said, if you guys ever want a fourth for ship chasing, Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern is my jam. So we might be opening up a different avenue for possible guests, not being at night.
Love it. We should take advantage of that because we're going back tonight. This is just a little summer vacation for us to go during the day.
Yeah, do some dad life. Like I said, once we get to August, the marquee draft streams, Shipcast in season, all that good stuff. We'll be back at night, but enjoying freeing up our evenings here. Definitely need to check out Pat's article about the trees and also goad him into buying one of these guitars. Telling me he doesn't have enough money. He's too poor to buy one.
Please don't goad me into buying these.
The only thing that would be better is you doing like an update to the Rojo parody song, but singing about diversifying your portfolio with a fucking, whatever that tree wood is called.
It's called the tree. That's how good
you gotta buy the tree.
Yeah,
Pat, what's the point of being rich if you can't have things that other people can't have? This is like the most famous tree ever.
Outside of Kitchen's tree, it is easily.
Don't think it didn't cross my mind to order one of these. Hey, I got a new guitar. It's the rarest wood I could find on the entire planet.
I know we just had a kid, but this is an investment.
I had to just go ahead and buy a guitar, the rarest tone wood on the fucking earth.
The other thing I'm picturing is like the way, DFS guys will buy the jersey of a player on their team, on their winning team, is like, Pat, you get this guitar, but you put like little decals of like Breece Hall, and then all the players you diversified around him stickered onto it and hang it over your background.
Decals on this wood?
Little Breece Hall.
That's what I'm saying. You can't put decals.
Desecrated the tree.
What was the price? You showed the actual screenshot from the where you could buy it, and it was five figures.
It's $25,000 on $26,000 on sale. It was $7,000 off. The other thing is I play left-handed, so I would, in order to get one of these guitars, I'd have to like special order it from. So it would be more expensive than that. Yeah.
Do it, pussy.
We were all thinking it.
Gretch, everyone needs to check out your new post on stealing signals. Anything else in your guitar neck of the woods?
No, I don't know anything about guitars. I only get my guitar information from Pat.
Jeff Lincoln says Pinball Wizard was recorded with this guitar, and I'll now use it to play a song about Cadillac Williams 2006 Week 14.
Oh man, yeah. Brittany will be legendarily upset if Pat buys one of these guitars. Legendary downside and legendary upset.
Oh god.
Sorry. Anything else, Gretch, for you?
No, Stealing Bananas. More stuff coming at Stealing Signals. Same.
I do have some plugs to say before you go. Check out the podcast we did with Shady Advice. Shady Advice joined the legendary upside team for the site, and then we do still have some of the $50 credits left. If you're on the fence of whether or not to sign up for the yearly subscription, you can get a $50 $100 credit. Also, renewal credits went out. First batch went out. If you signed up last year, you renew your subscription, $25 $100 credit for you. and just need your username. So if you got the 50 last year, I have your username. You're just going to get it automatically.
Beautiful. For me, if you want to check out that video, reverse engineering a draft, I actually did a Jayden Daniels backdoor double stack with that one. I thought that was a fun exercise over on the Deposit Kingdom channel. And then tomorrow morning, I'm dropping the update to the week 17 as all that matters. Have been in the lab all this week, wrapping my head around the new price structure and how that could potentially impact which weeks we want to optimize for more than others. So I think you guys will enjoy that. That'll be on the Deposit Kingdom YouTube channel in the morning. All right, guys, thank you for hanging out on this afternoon, throwing us on at your office, conference rooms, all of that good stuff. For Ben, for Pat, I'm Pete. We'll see you guys next time on Ship Chasing.